The latest Genshin update is packed with a ton of new content, and these are the top 5 new features coming with the 4.7 version. Finally, after more than 3 years, we are getting a new endgame mode called Imaginarium Theater. And this place will be located in a secret room within Mondstadt's library, and you will need to be adventure rank 35 to enter it. In there, a cute new sidekick called Wolfie awaits you, who will accompany us in this new mode. Basically, from what I understand, you will only be allowed to use characters from specific elements, and the first season will only allow you to select characters from Pyro, Electro, and Anemo elements. However, if your roster is not big enough, you will be provided with trial characters. But still, you will need to use either your own or trial characters for combat challenges, and the teams can actually grow in size because as you keep traversing the mode, you might be able to add new party members from special events, and you can also add characters from your friends list. On top of that, this mode can be completed in 3 difficulty levels: easy, normal, and hard. And just by looking at the hard mode, you will need to select 18 characters who are at least level 70. So that's pretty crazy if you think about it. Talk about horizontal investment. Now, the other big thing is the vigor system. Each character that you select to participate in combat can only be used a few times before they are exhausted, and somebody else needs to step in. So, in a nutshell, you will need to find a balance of managing your active team and utilizing characters before rotating them out. Now, the rewards actually look pretty good. We can obtain a bunch of Primo Gems by just completing this challenge for the first time, but also each month this Imaginarium Theater mode will reset and bring some new changes, which is pretty cool. Oh, and one last thing, by completing specific challenges in this mode, you can also obtain special badges that you can display on your profile. And also, we will be able to unlock new unique special poses for some characters. And finally, the Spiral Abyss rewards are also getting increased, from the usual 600 Primo Gems to 800. However, you're not gonna like this next part, but Spiral Abyss will now only reset every month, not every 2 weeks. So in reality, this means less Primo Gem rewards. But hey, don't shoot the messenger here, I am also pretty disappointed by this as well. Another update, another batch of new events, although surprisingly enough, I think these ones are pretty cool this time. So the main event called Mutual Security Enhancing Simulation will allow us to become Pokemon trainers once more, but instead of using mushrooms, this time we get to utilize a whole bunch of enemy types to either assault or defend the base. From what I understand, in assault mode, we will need to select monsters and place them strategically to win fights, while in defense mode, in addition to deploying monsters, we will also need to place turrets, because there will be several waves of enemies coming from different sides that we need to prevent from entering the base. I mean, yeah, pretty cool event. And the main reward is going to be a limited 4-star bow called Cloud Forge, as well as a bunch of other generic rewards that you can expect to obtain. Moving over, the combat event called Endless Forms Most Martial will put a little twist on the usual combat events we get. And now you will need to actually play by very specific rules, otherwise you won't get to clear the challenge. For example, one of the challenges can only be cleared if you defeat enough enemies with Electro Charge reaction. And then we have Spino Double Blaster event. I don't know, just use some kind of a cannon to shoot targets, you can change up the bullets, and yeah, it's just your typical minigame to get those rewards so we can pull for more characters. Now, Record of Reflective Riding event is kinda cool though. It feels like this platformer / arcadey type of game mode, where you will need to use trial characters, navigate the stage, and collect coins to pass the challenge. Finally, for those of you who are still playing Genius Invocation TCG, a bunch of new cards and NPCs will be added into the game. And of course, Leyline Overflow event will be returning once more. Man, the 4.7 update is stacked because the game will be introducing 3 new characters. And starting with Clorande, she's a 5-star Electro Sword user, and her main gimmick is going to be the Elemental skill, which will transform her playstyle into this pistol shooting mode. Her attacks will then deal electro damage, and with each pistol attack she will gain some Bond of Life. And if you use her skill again, she will clear this Bond of Life and perform a lunge attack that will restore HP to her. On top of that, if her Bond of Life is low, her pistol shots will pierce the enemies, and the higher the Bond of Life becomes, the better the damage and AoE will be of her lunge attack. One thing to note though, is that she cannot be healed by anyone else while she's using her skill, and instead, the healing that she receives will be transformed to Bond of Life. But again, you can heal her by just tapping the skill again to perform the lunge. And as for her burst, I believe it will grant Bond of Life to her and deal AoE damage. Honestly, I will cover Clarence and other new characters' kits in depth in my pre-release video, which is coming out very soon. Now, moving over to Siegeween, she's a 5-star Hydro Bow unit who can literally throw pills at enemies with her normal attacks, and if you hold down her charge attack and just keep holding it down, it will periodically release these small damaging bubbles. Not sure if this is a practical use of her kit, but it is pretty funny. Now, her elemental skill will create this big bubble in the shape of a heart, and it will jump between targets, dealing damage to them, while at the same time it will also provide healing for her teammates, but not to Siegeween herself, because she will in fact get only healed when the skill's duration is over. Also, we can hold down her skill to increase the size of the bubble, and the skill will also generate 2 source water droplets that Siegeween can pick up to gain Bond of Life, and when this Bond of Life is cleared, she actually regains energy. Finally, when it comes to her burst, she will gather up any nearby source water droplets and unleash this big cone of hydro at her enemies. Now, there's also Sethos, the new 4-star Electro Bow unit, and he is a pretty peculiar character because he can unleash charge attacks that can pierce enemies, but it takes a very long time to charge up the shot, and he cannot move while doing this. However, if he has any energy built up, the energy that he would use for the burst, it will actually be consumed by him when he's doing the charge shot, and it will significantly reduce the charging time. Pretty unique. Basically, he sacrifices his own energy to unleash fast charge shots. Now, the skill can gain him some energy as usual, but on top of that, when an electro-related reaction is triggered on the enemy, he will also recover energy. Finally, when his burst is activated, he will enter a special state where he can unleash piercing shots with his normal attacks. Again, I will fully cover everything there is to know about these characters in a future video that's coming out very soon. But let's talk about the banners quickly. In Phase 1, Clarence and Alhaitham will be the featured 5-stars, and alongside them, you will be able to pull for Sethos. And in Phase 2, Siegeween as well as Farina will be the featured units. And of course, both new 5-stars will have their own signature weapon banner available. Dainsleif, my love, this cool mysterious dude is finally coming back a year later as usual. And in version 4.7, a new Archon quest will be available for us. And this time around, we will be actually meeting up with our sibling face to face. Do I need to say more? Dainsleif quests are always a banger, and I'm pretty sure this one will be amazing as well. Now, besides this quest, Clarance's personal story quest will be available, and on top of that, Siegeween's story quests will also be available. So, lots of questing. Just like with every update, we're getting a couple of new quality of life changes, and this time around, it seems like Hoyoverse decided to increase the max resin cap, which will now be capped at 200. I don't believe this will also increase the speed at which resin recovers, just the maximum cap, so in a nutshell, you won't need to log into the game as often to spend the resin, and if you do end up reaching the maximum new cap, when you log in, you will now be able to craft 5 condensed resin, which is nice. In addition, the max limit for forging ores, character XP materials, and artifact enhancement materials will be increased from 2,000 all the way to 9,999, which I guess this is most relevant for veteran players who have tons of these materials. And speaking of which, the amount of friends you can add in-game will increase from 60 to 100, so I guess we're closely approaching that Dunbar's number of people we can stay friends with. Now, as for that artifact fast equip system, I don't know, I think the devs basically optimized something about recommended stats that you'll find in custom configuration section of this feature. Honestly, I don't use this one, so let me know if this is actually helpful. And as for adventure encounter system, the adventure rank requirement to unlock it has been lowered to 24. But let's talk about some exciting stuff outside of this update scope. First of all, the new animated short just dropped. I will leave a link in the description for you to check it out. It looks pretty emotional, and for a moment, I thought this was the legendary anime adaptation everyone was talking about, but I think this is just the animated short. I don't know, let me know if I'm wrong about this. However, we also finally got a trailer for Natlan, and my gosh, does it look amazing. There are 3 creature types that can be used to traverse this new nation, and I believe on Twitter, whoever's just dropped the news, they are called Saurians, and these creatures live amongst the humans, and I'm just gonna say it, I got these really heavy vibes of Monster Hunter Stories game, if anyone even knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, looks like the exploration is going to be amazing here. I especially love this rocky dude scaling the environment from walls to the ground, it's pretty exciting. But yeah, that's pretty much the entirety of 4.7 updated news. Let me know if I missed anything, and as always, don't forget to claim those Primo Gem codes I left on my pinned comment. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.